and welcome to Two Words Wolves Pod. I'm Ryan Eichten, and from the Media Center in Target Center, with me is Andrew Carlson. Andrew, how you doing?
I'm doing really well, man. I mean, to be honest, I'm a little tired. It's about 12:30 in the morning. We're going on like two straight nights of Minnesota teams playing well into the next morning. But no, things are good, man. And that was a fun game. I mean, say for the first two quarters it was fun, and then it kind of got a little less interesting. But it was a good one, man. It was a good one. Great atmosphere at Target Center tonight. Like really, really good playoff atmosphere. Most on fire it's been since the Lakers series, I would say last year, maybe even the Oklahoma City game in December. But really good crowd, really loud, probably plenty of beers flowing.
Yeah, as I sip on one of the post game beers here late at night. Yeah, I will say we're recording this in the media room, so we're kind of keeping our voices a little low, not screaming. So if our audio is, and it's the first in person podcast I think I've done. So we're also hoping the audio is working, praying that it is, I guess. But yeah, I mean, just a dominating performance from the Wolves from start to finish. And I think the place to start is pregame, where Aaron Gordon, about an hour or so, at least before I left for the stadium, was ruled out by the people that report such things. And that obviously changes the tenor of this game, especially with Peyton Watson already ruled out earlier days ago. Like with without Gordon, like they're not as good as this Wolves team. I mean, who knows what the healthy version of both of these teams look like? That's what the series is for. But like certainly without Watson, without AG, like they're just not close, and that's not even a criticism of them. If the Wolves were without what is Gordon, like their third most
Mhm.
important player? So if the Wolves were without Rudy or Julius plus Naz Reid, like maybe the Wolves would have gone down by 27 in the second half. So, but on the flip side, the Wolves aren't fully healthy either. Their guys are playing, but like Ant doesn't look great. So, but I thought listening to Adelman talk about what they had to do, who we'll see. And his point was like, well, for them, they'll see tomorrow what Gordon's status for the rest of the series for Game 4, all that is. But like, I don't. I think they were kind of caught off guard by Gordon not playing in this game, and from the first moment, I think like they just weren't ready. They weren't ready to play, and I mean, probably a knock against them that one player going out kind of did all of this, where they were really not competitive at any point in this game. Um, yeah, I thought that was the big swing thing, and that would be something to watch for Game 4, as they are. If Gordon's in there, obviously that's big for them, and if Gordon's not, I think they'll be more ready to play. Even if I still think that anytime Gordon misses a game, the Wolves should just be winning that game of the series.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Jace Frederick on Twitter just a little bit ago said Jokic actually said that he knew that Aaron Gordon wasn't going to play 2 days ago, which is a little weird to me because I mean you touched on it a little bit, but David Adelman pregame was one of the more dejected coaches, I think, in the pregame press conference that I've seen in a very long time. I mean, it was one of those things where it sounded like he had just found out that he was going to be ruled out, and it was a very fluid situation. And they just didn't really know kind of what the path forward was going to be. Just kind of, talking to people around here, like Denver people too, of just injury history of Gordon this year. It would be hard to imagine him coming back for Game 4. We'll see. Uh, it's calf tightness, but he's been dealing with injuries all year, whether it's calf tightness, hamstring tightness, whatever it may be. He's been beat up, and it's been a really weird year. So it's just something to watch, and like you said, they're not the same team, and that's okay. And for the Wolves, that gives you all the more reason to maybe wrap this thing up a little quicker than you initially thought. Because if that wasn't going to be the case, then if they were maybe going to have injuries or other things that could maybe happen, a 7 game series is very much so on the table originally, like
Mm-hmm.
very much so on the table originally, and it was going to be a war. Oklahoma City's going to play maybe 9 games if it's
Yeah.
before the Western Conference Finals. So the less games, the better, and so it's all good, but it's one of those things to for sure watch. And again, I would be surprised if Gordon plays.
Yeah, and I think officially it's obviously it's going to depend on, and this is what Adam said pregame. It's going to depend on the what he looks like recovery wise. What it I think to kind of merge like the two ideas of Jokic knowing Gordon wasn't going to play 2 days ago and Adam and seemingly caught off guard. I think what happened is like he experienced some tightness and whatever after the game, after game in practice, and after game two, and so they think they were prepared for like that potentially, and it just got worse instead of getting better. And that's something unfortunately this Nuggets team has dealt with the entire season. Obviously, Jokic missed time, but like it was always their potential title run was always going to come down to Gordon staying at least relatively healthy through 4 series, and unfortunately for them, he couldn't even get to the third game healthy. And maybe it is just a 1 game thing, and they're back, and the Nuggets are able to storm back into the series. They're obviously only down 2-1. That's far from a death knell, but if Gordon is like even hampered, like the Wolves just have
not even the same team.
Yeah,
not even the same team.
He's important.
I mean, he's their most important player, I would imagine. I mean, he's the one that makes Jokic. He's the one that makes Jokic essentially not as much of a liability on defense. I mean, the reason that Jokic is having such a hard time defending the paint right now is because he doesn't have Aaron Gordon stopping drivers and standing up people right outside the paint, and that's very visible. I mean, Nikola Jokic, it's funny how some of these bad defensive narratives about him are coming out now. When, I mean, he's never been a great defender. He's just been surrounded by good wing defenders. He's been surrounded by Aaron Gordon. They do a lot of the dirty work, and he's, moderately effective in a drop when all of those things are right. Nikola Jokic alone as a rim protector is, yes, a really bad situation to be in for Denver. And so, yeah, it is. They're a completely different team. Their defense completely changes too.
Yeah.
I mean, the Wolves have, again, in terms of points in the paint, 68 points in the paint tonight. I think they had 52 on Monday. I mean, I'm not very good at math, but that's 130 points in 2 games in the paint.
Right.
So, yeah, it is. It's a massive impact on the series, and the soft tissue stuff isn't something that you mess around with, man. Like calf tightness, that's Achilles if you overplay your hand there. Hamstring soreness, it's a strained hamstring, maybe even a torn hamstring if you overplay your hand there. So, I mean, I would imagine down 2-1, we'll see what happens in game 4. The Nuggets are going to probably try and slow play this given Aaron Gordon's history. And again, that's a positive sign for the Wolves. You feel bad for Nuggets fans, and honestly, I'm kind of bummed because I'm getting ahead of my skis a little bit here, but it's a really fun series, and I hope that it maintains that.
Yeah, let's continue talking about the Nuggets specifically before, for the bulk of this, we talk about the Wolves, because Jokic was just, and all credit to Rudy, of course, with this, but like Jokic was just like straight up awful in this game. I mean, that's by his standards, obviously, but like a lot of the paint points, I mean, their perimeter defense wasn't good either, as Jaden will tell you. All their poor defenders, I guess. But like Jokic was not stopping anything defensively, and he just couldn't get anything to fall. Did he miss his first 6 shots or more in this game? And finishes with, if I can find it here on the stat sheet, 7 of 26. I mean, I'll have to go pay for a quick stat.
26% from the field.
Pay for like a quick stat head subscription to go look this up. But like 19 missed field goals for Jokic in a game, that probably doesn't happen very often.
I'd be curious the last time that Jokic and Jamal Murray were both held under 30% from the field.
Yeah, I mean, it can't. And go back to the fourth quarter of game 2. I was going to tweet it out and didn't put it together, but I mean, they were, if I remember correctly, 2 of 12 down the stretch of the fourth quarter. And now in this game, they had that whole fourth quarter basically of game 2 was this game.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, like we mentioned, if AG's out and they're probably just outgunned, but like, I just don't think he's been, by his standards, at all good in this entire series.
He looks hurt. Like I mean, maybe he's not, maybe he is, and maybe he's. And I know that there was some mention of him maybe dealing with some wrist things, but he doesn't look any sort of like doesn't look like he has energy. I mean, he just looks beaten down, and part of that is a tribute to the Wolves, man. Like in game 1, he looked. I would say he looked just fine in game 1. Maybe he wasn't completely himself, but I think he still had a 20-point triple double. I mean, that's Jokic, and something beyond game one where the Wolves are just continuing to throw bodies at him. It's not just Rudy. Like, yes, Rudy is 85% of it, but the other 15% is just the committee of people that Chris Finch is throwing at Jokic. I mean, Ant had the assignment for a little bit in some spots where they're switching on that two-man game a little bit. Ant had the assignment a little bit. Jaden has picked him up in spots too. I mean, they're just throwing a lot of big, strong bodies at Jokic, and making him work really hard, which has to be your game plan in the 7-game series
Mhm.
with him. If you're not doing that, then you're gonna end up losing it. So it's been really effective so far, and he, more than anything, whether he's a little injured or not, he just looks worn down. So point Chris Finch in the game plan department because it certainly seems to be working right now.
And it just like, I mean, this Denver Nuggets team had the best offense in the NBA this year. How we just have not really. I mean, they were first two games they were pretty solid on offense, and especially the first one. But like, had very seldom this series so far have we seen like have Wolves fans been just like terrified of wide open threes that the Nuggets have generated all season. Like we just haven't seen that in this entire series, and obviously that's credit to the Wolves defense and especially like Rudy and Jaden to be able to guard Jokic and Murray largely one on one, or if they are running like the pick and roll, the two of them guarding that 2-on-2 action. All credit to them, but even with them playing extraordinarily well, I don't think some of it is just them playing straight up poorly, and that's not something. I mean, hey, I'll say this: like before the series, if this is the Anthony Edwards we were gonna get, I thought the Wolves would have been
5 games
DOA,
done.
dead on arrival,
Yep.
and maybe if you told me Gordon was not healthy either, maybe that brings it back to the middle a little bit, but still, like the Wolves have done this large. Other than basically the second quarter of Game 2, which Ant was really really good in, other than that, they have not gotten awesome Anthony Edwards in this series. And I guess we can talk about his game tonight. To be honest, I'm gonna have a hard time criticizing any player in a playoff victory, especially when you're up by 15 plus all the game and 25 plus most of the game. Um, I mean, I thought his shot still isn't there. His offense was up and down. The fouling is why he ends up only playing 23 minutes. But maybe they didn't need him. They didn't need him, and maybe it's for the best that he gets some rest. But still, I think maybe again if AG's out, they probably can get away with Ant playing whatever this is. But like against the potentially the Spurs and certainly against the Thunder, they're going to need more from him. But I say that, and it's hard to. They win by 17 points tonight. It's hard to really to dig into that on too much tonight.
Yeah, Ant's clearly not himself, and I wonder if that maybe factors into Denver's game plan here moving forward. Is like I wonder, do we try and philosophically get Anthony Edwards to take more shots? Because right now the jumper looks flat. That's the biggest thing that sticks out to me and tells me that he's not right is because he's not getting a lot of elevation on his jumper, and a lot of them are falling short. And so again, that tells me that there's just at least a little bit of bothersome. There's a little bit of bothersome um, pain there for him. So if I'm Denver, like if I'm David Adelman, I go home tonight and I say, how can we get Ant to be a little bit more selfish here in these next couple games? As crazy as it sounds, but you're right. It's hard to criticize someone in a win and in a commanding win at that. But it's definitely just something to monitor because it's he's clearly not himself, and when the jumper's not going, and you could tell in that kind of the middle part of the game, like once they kind of developed a lead, second, third quarter, like he was really trying to get that going, almost to a fault where Denver cut the lead a little bit. But it's something to monitor moving forward. I do think though, just going back to your point about some of the defensive stuff on Jokic and making him work a little bit more. And it's probably a good transition to just maybe talk a little bit more about the Wolves team as well, is the the level of concentration that this team is playing. Like I think
Mhm.
concentration is the right word. Like the level of concentration that this team is playing with right now, it maybe there were glimpses of it in the regular season. Single, I can probably count them on one hand, but there were glimpses of it. This is a new level. I mean, this is a full game, two now full or now 3 quarters last game, a game and 3 quarters of an ass kicking,
Yeah.
and it's partly that they're. I mean, there's defensive possession now that's gone, pretty viral on Twitter of, you know, Jaden starts out guarding Murray, and then Jokic comes up and sets the screen, and Gobert hedges it. And there's 4 different players within the defensive scheme that are just completely on a string with the action that Denver's running, um, and that just doesn't happen in February with this team. And yes, it is a fault of theirs, but at the same time, after a win like this, you have to give credit where it's due, for finding this level of concentration down the road when they need to find and lean on some of the habits that they've built over time. We'll see. But again, not gonna be a complete downer after a win like this. It was extremely impressive, and there's just a different level of focus right now with this team. There's a different energy. There's a new edge, and there's just a level of concentration within specifically the defensive scheme that is allowing Rudy and Jaden to do their things where they're not completely alone like they were during the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, their performances like tonight were few and far between during the regular season, but I think they did show it at times. Like you can think of they had a Spurs win, the one game Wemby ended up playing, like that was a fantastic win. I would say the one time they did beat the Nuggets during the regular season was a little bit like this, at least in the sense of they didn't have Aaron Gordon that night either. And the Wolves dominated that game largely too. Uh, Shout out Nadine from Gopher Hall. Uh,
I'm experiencing greatness, everybody. It's absolute greatness. These guys have had no sleep and they're still phenomenal.
Hopefully people can hear that. I'm sure. I'm sure it came through. Train of thought is just it's long gone. Yeah, I think the question was always going to be. I'm not surprised they're up 2-1 in this series. I mean, obviously, especially given the injury situations of both teams, but it's always been about can they stack good performances on top of each other, and that's just something they like basically never did during the regular season, at least not in the sense of like what a championship team normally does. And maybe that doesn't matter. We'll see. I'm excited to see what game 4 looks like in terms of that. I like can they continue to play this level that they have for the last 7 quarters of the series,
Mhm.
or do they, as they did 2 seasons ago against the Nuggets, do they kind of get high on their horse and let the Nuggets back into this series, which I just think game 4 provides an opportunity to really bury them. Similar to the game where, yeah, they're up. Nuggets only score 11 points in the first quarter. Um, that's the PR let us know that was the record for Timberwolves defense points allowed in a quarter, first quarter of a playoff game. And I guess they were only, quote unquote, only up 14 after the first quarter, but through the second quarter they buried them. They're up 20 plus, and yeah, they didn't win by 30 plus, like they maybe should have. But like also like I said this to Britt in the Britt Robson in the press conference before Finch got up there. I was like, when you go up by that many, it's like a 2 out of 10 game is well good enough. Like, and that's kind of what they didn't play that poorly in the second half, but it's just like you just have to not hand them the ball half your possessions.
It's funny what that does, right?
Yeah, and so yeah, what did the league get to, like 11, 12? They were like the Wolves were in full control of that game, and so I'm excited to see what game 4 looks like, because you do have the opportunity to bury the Nuggets, and I would probably say this would have applied to both teams in this series, that if either of these teams are going to make a run to the finals, it was the other team was going to stand in their way, in the sense of, I don't know if, because like if the Wolves win this one, assuming Wembanyama gets healthy and the Spurs take care of the Blazers, like you're going to be in a 6 or 7 game series with that. God knows, I mean, the Wolves would love a 6 or 7 game series with the Thunder because they weren't able to even get there last year. And it's just like, you can't, what's 7 times 4? You can't play 28 playoff games and win the title. You're just not going to, like, that's just not, that applies
No.
for everyone, especially as you said it, like, I bet you the Thunder play single digit playoff games.
They'll
on
play
their
9
way,
games.
Yeah, on the way to the West Finals. Even if like Reeves and Doncic get healthy, I would assume that's like a 5 game
Still,
series.
it's 5 games.
Yeah, so
they're still not. Reeves is going to come back and he'll be 80%.
Yeah.
Max. Luka, if Luka comes back, he'll be 60%.
Let's talk about Jaden in this game because he was just obviously he says what he says after game 2. Talks he lists the entire Nuggets roster aside from Christian Brown,
Tim Hardaway, Cam Johnson.
Get your Kermit the Frog in the Darth Vader hoodie memes out there. Get your Jonah Maves put out Darth Maul and Jaden in the hoodie, like all phenomenal stuff. Do we want a hype video? We can put the Duel of the Fates over what Jaden, all that stuff. And obviously, I think a lot of people went, well, why would you even say that? Why, like, and I think this performance tonight is why.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, because bleep you, that's why. Like, Jaden doesn't give two mother-loving bleeps about that kind of thing. And you got to back it up. That's what Finch said post-game. Like, he said what he said, but we got to back it up. And Lord knows that the whole roster basically backed him up tonight.
Yeah, it was a challenge. And I think the funny thing is I would assume it was a team high score with 25 points. And frankly, I didn't even really notice it as much because Rudy and Jaden were so good, right? And Jaden was the story coming into tonight. And, kind of immediately after that, it's like, yeah, Jaden doesn't care. And that's abundantly obvious. But there's also always that thing in the back of your mind where it's like, man, what if Jokic just kind of comes out and does the 30, 15, and 15 thing that he's pretty accustomed to doing. And Murray comes out and does what he did in game 1, and it just didn't happen. And, here's the thing that's really interesting about Jaden right now is he has the opportunity, and I mean, he already got the attention with the comments that he made, but he has a real opportunity here to ascend from, and I wrote it, from like a two-way starter to a legitimate star, like a runway to being a star, to being the third option that everybody talks about this team needs, that was so intermittent this year. Like, Jaden had a really nice year. There's no question about it, but to say it was consistent would be wrong. And
applies to the entire roster, basically.
Well, absolutely. There's no question about that. And you could say the same for a lot of people. But Jaden specifically, because there's been that discourse around him for such a long time. Like, can he be this guy? Can he be the third banana? And man, it's hard right now after 2 games to say that he is not on the trajectory to be that. To move up within the hierarchy of this team, both on the offensive side. He's already number 1 on the defensive side from a perimeter standpoint. Like, this is his runway now. And tonight he made a statement that this team just doesn't make. There's plenty of talk that's come from this team previously in post-game press conferences. There has not been let's call a spade a spade. There has not been a lot of backup of that trash talk. It'll happen every now and again. But this is notable. This is a series with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray against your biggest rival, one of the best basketball rivalries of the last 10 years. And you just came and shut everybody down. Like, water was shut off immediately. First quarter, water was completely shut off. They snatched the soul. Jaden had 9 points in the first quarter. He had 9 points, 4 rebounds. I think he finished, was it 6 of 8, maybe 6 of 8 from the field. I think he actually took more shots than that, 9 of 13. He was 6 of 8 at one point. Like, hyper efficient, played a full 40 minutes. I mean, like, it's unbelievable, man. Like, you can't not just kind of be like, wow, double. I mean, that was pretty spectacular. And so what's the name of the game? It's consistency. Can you continue to do maybe not 20 and 10 in 40 minutes on 9 of 13 field goals, but can you continue to do something similar to this? That's it. That's the formula. And if Jaden can continue to do that, this team it's a new team. It's a new team.
Yeah, exactly. And I just look at Julius got some extra rest, played 32 minutes instead of what did we normally play, like 36 in a
35, 36
game. I guess aside from that, Dante at 32 minutes is pretty standard. Io at 32 minutes that's a lot of minutes for Io. But the two guys in this game, the Wolves' best two players were Rudy Gobert and Jaden McDaniels.
And Io was the third, and he was the team high scorer. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. I mean, that's Kyle Tigey tweeted out. It's like Rob Dillingham. I don't know, go look at Kyle's page. It was like Rob Dillingham would have to cure cancer at this point for this to be a bad trade. And obviously Kyle's being a little shit there, but like to a certain extent it's true. Like I was really good in this game, but like Rudy has just been incredible in this series, and I think it's important to juxtapose that to what he looked like last year, where last playoffs, aside from the game 5 in LA, which kind of feels a little rude to say that because he was sensational in that game. Say congrats to my teammate as
27 and 24.
Congratulate my teammate as Anthony Edwards yaps at the Lakers bench. There's a lot of, and we'll probably get there eventually, but a lot of trade speculation, off-season deadline. There's always the conundrum of Rudy on offense, all that stuff that the Wolves have never been able to, in my opinion, properly maximize. But like a game like this against an opponent like this, Rudy just up and dominates this game. And I guess, quick aside, Jokic with 3 assists is just that's insane. And obviously that's not all Rudy. That's the defense around him, as Rudy even said after this game. But
Rudy and Jokic having the same number of assists. Who would have thought that? Do you have that on the bingo card?
There's a game Rudy led the team in assists with 5 games, and they won. I don't remember. Do you remember what? I can go look back through the archives.
I have no idea.
Yeah, Rudy led the team with like 5 assists in a win.
That's crazy.
Whoever brought it up to him after the game he did not know that fact until someone brought it to him as well.
If I would have told you that Rudy Gobert would finish tonight with the same amount of assists as Nikola Jokic, fire me into the sun, because that would have not
quick game. If I told you that, what number would you pick? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
obviously
that's true.
You wouldn't pick 15.
Maybe like 6, maybe 6. Like that'd be a good. That's actually a good question.
Because you wouldn't pick 15, because no, Jokic would never get that, but you wouldn't choose what ended up being 3 because you're like, well, there's no way Jokic only has 3 assists. He farts that out in his worst type of games. But I don't know, the Nuggets' offensive game plan in this game was just
what's bad.
I don't know what.
And they don't have a lot of talent. They don't have a lot of talent around them either. The thing too that was just so interesting is Rudy had 3 assists, but like almost all those came in the first quarter. I mean, he was getting everything he wanted on the short roll. Like that action that is just so profitable for this team every single time down the floor.
They don't run it. They don't get him the ball.
No, they don't. They don't. And there's probably a little bit of there are probably some traumatic experiences there with him that caused them to not do it. It's still a very efficient play, even all of that considered. But Rudy was absolutely cooking on the short roll in the first quarter. And I don't know for sure, but I would be willing to wager that all 3 of those assists came in the first quarter. Maybe 2 of those 3 assists came in the first quarter. But yeah, I mean and that's what ignited things, right? Like he was hitting open shooters, and the Wolves weren't hitting their 3-pointers early on.
Neither team was.
But he was hitting open guys. He was hitting cutters, and like that's the thing is like when he gets that and he draws some of that gravity, like there's more of a propensity for people to cut around him. And so thought that was kind of the story specifically in the first quarter, because we talked about it. They snatched their soul in the first quarter. Like you kind of knew that there wasn't really going to be much coming back from that unless Jokic put on a monumental second and third. But at the end of the day, Rudy on the short roll, man. Like it is a profitable thing that they have, and it should be used more. And especially now, again, we talk about the Jokic defense all the time. Drawing him and maybe one of their wing defenders in, get the ball zipping around.
Yeah, I think if we told you the Wolves blew out the Nuggets in whatever game, you'd assume it was on a shooting variance game, right? Like, Nuggets shot bad, Wolves shot well. That was not the case here. It was just both teams shot a similar percentage from three. Both teams, I don't have the exact numbers. I would assume shot relatively similar in the mid range. The Wolves just got to the rim more often and were able to convert those looks more often, and that's something that's going to be repeatable if they're able to do this. And obviously, we're trying not to get ahead of our skis, and especially if Gordon can somehow come back healthy, like then I don't know, any team down 2-1 is probably not favored, but it's certainly like if you just flipped 2K injuries off, like it'd be a coin flip series from here. Yeah, the Wolves are in a good spot, and I'm really excited for Game 4 because I think that's gonna be very telling. I mean, I wrote about this after Game 2 that I felt like after the first quarter of that Game 2, where the Wolves were down a bunch of points, I think as many as 15 early in that game, that they had basically an opportunity to quit. Not that they would have just up and gotten swept, but they could have let go of the rope. They could have just let the Game 2 loss happen. You'd probably come back here at Target Center, split the games, and just like in 2020,
down 3-1.
Just like in 2023, you're probably the Nuggets are hopefully fewer chairs are being thrown, but like, you're out of the season, and I think a lot of lesser teams would have done that. But as much as we talk about consistency with this team, which is important, the one thing they've been able to do, it's since Rudy got here, more or less coincidentally, but like the last 4 seasons, when they get down, when their backs are up against the wall, they always respond every single time. And I think these last 2 games are an important example of that. That whenever, and trust me, I texted a buddy in first quarter of that Game 2. I said, time of death, whatever mountain time, whatever it was at the time. I thought the Wolves were cooked, finito, done. And I was wrong. And every time you do that, every time you think they've hit a new rock bottom, every time you think that this version of this team is done, they always pull together performances like this. And while I believe that like that, the other flip side of it, and why Game 4 will be important, but like while I believe like finding that consistency, especially in the regular season, to build those habits is important, I think just as important is this ability that when shit gets hairy, when it looks like they're done, they always come back. I mean, even that first season with Rudy, they could have missed the playoffs. They could have handed Utah a 1% chance at Wemby or whatever it was. I remember I was so terrified of that. They didn't. They, despite people throwing punches at each other or a wall, they came back and they crushed an Oklahoma City team that hasn't missed the playoffs since. That was the last time Oklahoma City was that 2023 play, and they made the playoffs. I mean, I remember that season, the New Year's Eve game against a really bad Pistons team.
Oh my gosh, that one's burned into the brain.
That's really bad.
Players only meeting after that one, I'm pretty sure.
The series 3 years ago was against the Nuggets, or 2 years ago against the Nuggets. They lose 3 straight games, the middle 3 games of that series, and they look like they win the first 2. They're all in control. People are throwing heat packs. People are not getting suspended for throwing towels at officials somehow. The Wolves lose the next 3 games. What do? They beat the Nuggets by 50 in a game where somehow this is a sentence. Luka Garza hits a shot to go up 50 as the Chicken Dance played. It's an accurate representation of what happened that night. And then obviously they come back down from 20 points in Game 7. I mean, even last year, like how many times last year?
Yeah.
Similar to this year. Like they were never a team you thought could make the West Finals. But what do? They're fairly sizable underdogs against the Lakers, and they just beat that team down, made them quit. I thought, especially, I've said this, Game 5, the Lakers had quit. It was a close game, but that was only because the Wolves didn't shoot that night. And obviously the Wolves get the lucky.
Well, and Rudy was the one who carried them through with offensive rebounds and putbacks, essentially. I mean,
And
because
then
they had nothing. They had nothing as big.
The next round, Steph gets hurt, and you get a break there. Although I think they win that series anyway, but certainly made it easier. And then this year, where they never had the low point that they did in previous seasons. Obviously,
they had some bad losses, but I don't think they had the true low point.
They had the 5-game losing streak in the middle of the season. The first 2 losses were San Antonio and Houston, with players hurt and a back-to-back, all that.
That Hawks loss felt like
the middle
a low
2
point
losses
too.
in that were Utah and Chicago were really bad, and then they got just utterly destroyed against the Warriors the day after the postponed game after Alex Purdy was murdered.
Yeah.
So mitigating circumstances obviously
for sure.
there too, but they never really. They were never they were 7th briefly in the standings, but like there was never a point in this season where I thought they weren't going to make the playoffs, the top 6. And 2 seasons or last season that was not the case. They needed thank you Harrison Barnes for beating the Warriors to help the Wolves get out of that, but they always every time you hit rock bottom, they never quit. They never. So many teams I think would just 1-2-3 Cancun this series here or just this season. Like they never do that. They always keep fighting, and that's a credit to probably everyone in the organization, from the front office to the coaching staff to the players.
Well, and that's the thing too, is they've talked about this for on multiple occasions during the season, and it's been multiple people within the team. It's been Mike, it's been Nas, it's been Ant, it's been Dante, I think, has even alluded to it before too. But there is a tendency for this team to not care until they really need to. It's the night before your homework's due, right? Like, why would we start the project a week before when we can just start it the night before?
C's get degrees type of.
That's not a terrible way to describe,
because they didn't get an F. The regular season was not an F.
That is a great way to describe the regular season. But they have said before, like it comes down to winning time for them. They've used winning times term. I remember Nas specifically after the Wizards game when they went up 25 points and then that game got down to 4 towards the end. Nas specifically used the term like we tend to just kind of list back and then we come back alive during winning time. And that's kind of a microcosm of this season. They locked in and got wins when they needed to secure the 6th seed. They had low points when they probably could have had low points. I mean, they could have afforded to. They knew that. They played poorly because of that. And now when the playoffs are here, I mean, there's kind of a new level of intensity there. It does. I know I said it earlier in the pod, but it truly does feel like there is an energy about this team right now that has not been seen since the last playoffs, since last year during the playoffs. And frankly, I don't even know if I would say that it was during last year's playoffs. Like this team is very concentrated right now. Like, and it's like top to bottom, not just Ant walking in the streets of LA talking trash to people. It's not just like Julius having abundantly good stat lines against the Warriors and the Lakers in a series. Like this is 1 through 13. Rudy talked about after the game. Even Joe Ingles is running scout team Jokic. Like 1 through 13 is completely rowing in the same direction right now, which just has not happened in a long time. And like you said, if you would have told me that was going to be the case a couple months ago, I probably would have. I was like, okay, I could see that happening. I wouldn't have really believed you. I mean, it didn't seem like there was a lot of personality or fight in this team, and they kind of just wanted the year to be over after a satisfactory playoff run. But it's a little bit different, and Game 4 will decide that. This can all go out the window in the span of one game if it gets knotted up 2-2. But as things sit right now, a little bit different, feels like.
Yeah. And I think just kind of briefly looking forward to Game 3, it's not that it's a must win. Obviously, you're up 2-1. You did give yourself, by winning Game 3, a little bit of. But I really think like the Wolves' path to winning the next series, maybe the series after that, even if I don't necessarily believe in all that, I think it starts with this Game 4. And obviously, if the Nuggets come out swinging, they play their best game, you end up losing. Like, there's only so much you can do in that type of way. But like, really, like, go for the jugular. I think in this Game 4, I think is really important. I thought maybe the Nuggets a little bit in Game 2 might have let their foot off the gas a little bit. And if you don't do that, especially if Aaron Gordon is hobbled, I think really putting your stamp on the series and trying to go up 3-1 would be huge, so that you can either try to close out in Game 5 or at the very least secure a Game 6 where you're the team that can end the series there.
Yep, and more games you can have here, the better. I mean, this, again, like I said, this was an amazing atmosphere tonight. It was best playoff atmosphere since the LA series, and it was loud. New intro videos, new intro music. Like, it just was a little bit of a different feel. Really good energy. and one where the home crowd was not let down in the first quarter, like many times,
Yeah.
like many times before, where you have a deflated, energetic crowd that quickly leaves the building or starts booing. The inverse of that happened tonight, and so might want to keep that home court advantage going for a little bit longer.
Absolutely. Well, with this win, the Wolves secure it at the bare minimum. Saturday at night will not be the last game at Target Center. Either it'll be Game 6 or against the Nuggets, or God willing, a San Antonio series or a Portland, the Kyle Tighe Bowl of the Timberwolves versus Trailblazers. Unlikely, but yeah, that's where we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you everyone for listening. You guys are listening in the morning on Saturday. Andrew and I stayed up till past 1:30 in the morning to get this out, but we wouldn't have it any other way. Well, actually, we would. A 7 p.m. tip time would have been nice, but
It's playoffs, man. We play hurt sometimes, right?
Yeah, and I've only been back in Minnesota for a couple days since Denver, so yeah, ready for. At least they're home. Get to sleep in your own bed a little bit. But for Andrew, I'm Ryan. Thank you everyone for listening. This pod will be back in some form. Just going to keep saying in some form because I'm flying by the seat of my pants here with this podcast. But this podcast will be back to break down Game 4. But until then, thank you everyone for listening. Go Wolves.
Ayoo!